president of American Baptist College, and the topic is nonviolent leadership for the 21st century, dealing primarily with what Dr. Lafayette has described as principles for nonviolence. And of course, Dr. Lafayette, before we had our first break, you were talking about what you consider to be the 6 basic principles for a prescription for nonviolence. And I think you had already dealt with one of those principles, being courage. And I think now if we will take the rest of this period, the rest of this segment, to talk about those other 5 basic principles that will tie all of this together.
The next principle has to do with the goal that you're trying to accomplish, and that is the beloved community, as Martin Luther King describes it. And the beloved community is a community where people are embraced by love and concern and goodwill for each other as persons. And it's an environment where we respect each other, and we realize that we do not exist in a vacuum by ourselves, but we live in community. And that if we're going to get the fullness of life, then we have to also contribute to our community's growth and development. In other words, you can't have a community that's healthy and a community that's contributing to the growth and health of individuals unless we ourselves are concerned about the least of these. So we can't be satisfied with simply the material things in life when other people are undernourished in terms of education, in terms of job opportunities, career opportunities, or just to have opportunity for leisure learning and growth. That when people are suffering, we must also feel that suffering. So the beloved community is concerned about that. That's the second thing. The next thing is that we must realize that we can be violent in spirit internally as well as externally. Some of the wounds that are inflicted internally are wounds that take much longer to heal. As Martin Luther King said, that the scars of segregation will take a long time to heal. And on the mental scars that we put on children, for example, many times we say, well, we're not abusive because we don't physically abuse our children, but when we ignore them, when we don't compliment them and encourage them, and we make them feel less than human beings and not worth very much, this is a psychological internal damage that takes a long time to repair, if ever.
You talk about, let me interrupt you here, Dr. Lafayette. You talk about the scars of segregation. Let's, perhaps some of our members of our audience might not be familiar with segregation as you are describing segregation. Exactly what was segregation and what were some of the scars that you felt were a part of that system?
Well, the system of segregation separated people on the basis of their race, the color of their skin. So there were places where blacks could not go simply because they were blacks. They had the money, but they could not go to certain hotels. They could not eat at restaurants, lunch counters. And even the restroom facilities had, colored and white, assuming that there was a difference in the human beings. And the implications, strong implications, was that blacks were inferior and whites were superior. Well, some of the scars caused people to feel that they were less than human beings. And so therefore, they went through this entire society feeling they were less than other people. The other tragedy of it, of course, is that whites thought they were superior, and that false notion caused them to become very out of sync with the rest of the world, because the majority of the world is not white. And so therefore, they had persona non grata in terms of arrogance of power simply because of color of their skin. And that was a disservice they did to young white kids growing up. And so they had to come to the sense of reality that they live in a world with other people, and that other people, regardless of their color, were also equal in terms of their distribution of brain power. In fact, Charles Drew was the one that developed the blood plasma that saved a lot of folks' lives. I'm sure more white people benefited from his invention, a way to preserve blood so that the Red Cross could carry blood from one place to another. It was a black man who did that. But many whites, of course, were not aware, or either blacks. So to write black folks out of history